Okay, let's unpack this. We've received just a fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive, all focusing on the Indian hip-hop artist Chaar Diwaari. He's generating a lot of buzz.
Definitely seems that way.
And this deep dive, it's really for you, the listener. We're aiming to cut through, the noise and really explore the layers. His experimental music, those really striking visuals, and just his unique place and the whole Indian music scene right now. We've got articles, interviews, fan discussions. A real mix.
Yeah, a lot to dig into. And the goal is really to synthesize all that, right? To figure out what makes him tick based on what you've shared.
Exactly. What's driving the experimentation? Why do the visuals hit so hard? What's the overall impact? We'll try and cover all of that.
Absolutely. It's clear from the material. He sparks conversation.
Yeah.
He pushes against things.
Yeah.
So this is a chance to get inside that world he's creating, Go beyond just the surface level. Understand the philosophy, the process, the impact, using these sources directly.
It's not just listening to the tracks, is it? It's the whole package.
It's the whole ecosystem he's building, yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the basics then. Who actually is Chaar Diwaari? Where's he from? What's his core identity, according to these sources?
Well, fundamentally, Chaar Diwaari is Garv Taneja.
Garv Taneja.
Okay. He's from New Delhi, India. And, you might initially slot him into Indian hip-hop, or DHH as it's often called.
Right.
But the sources pretty quickly suggest that label feels, well, a bit too limiting for what he actually does.
Limiting. How so? What makes him broader than just DHH?
Because the material really emphasizes he's not just a rapper or a singer. He's described as multifaceted.
Huh?
He's a music producer, he's a songwriter, and really critically, he's a visual artist too. Deeply involved in the whole aesthetic.
The visual side is key.
Yeah, one source uses the phrase, he does it all, which really highlights that significant creative control he seems to have over, almost everything. Beat one to the final video edit.
Wow.
He's building his artistic universe, piece by piece. It seems like it's really on his own terms.
That level of control is pretty rare, isn't it? Especially for someone getting this much attention right now.
It really is.
So where does that put him in the Indian hip-hop scene? Is he just another voice, or is it something bigger?
The sources definitely lean towards something bigger. He's consistently called a budding hip-hop star, someone who's making waves.
Making waves, yeah.
But the language actually gets stronger than that. Some sources see him as actively pushing the boundaries, not just of DHH, but maybe the whole Indian music scene.
Pushing boundaries, okay.
And then you get perspectives that put him right at the center, suggesting he's part of a revolution in DHH.
A revolution. That's a strong word. What makes people use language like that about his work?
It seems to come down to his fundamental difference. His work is just described as distinct, stands apart even in a scene that's already pretty diverse.
So it's not fitting the mold.
Not at all. It's noted that his music is different even for those not typically into Indian hip-hop, which suggests he might be pulling in new listeners, or maybe challenging the expectations of the existing fan base.
Interesting.
So that uniqueness, that willingness to just diverge, that seems to be what's fueling that revolution talk.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And the name itself, Chaar Diwaari, you mentioned it translates to four walls in Hindi.
Yeah.
That feels like it has to mean something specific.
Oh, absolutely. The sources suggest it's very deliberate. It has both a literal meaning and, a deeper philosophical one for him.
Okay, so the literal is?
Four walls, yeah.
Yeah.
And he connects that directly to where he creates, making music within four walls of my room. So it grounds the art in a very personal, maybe even confined space.
But there's more to it, beyond just the room.
Much more, yeah. He talks about making music as creating something out of free air.
Right.
And in that process, within those physical four walls, he feels this sacred fourth wall opening up.
A sacred fourth wall,
Perfect.
like breaking through something.
Exactly. It suggests a kind of transcendence, maybe? Breaking perceived barriers, a creative or spiritual expansion that happens right there in that intimate act of making something.
So the name captures both things, the physical space and the breakthrough.
Yeah, it seems to capture that duality perfectly, the grounded reality of his room and the sort of boundless, almost mystical feeling of bringing something new into existence. It's a really neat encapsulation.
That explanation really does give you a glimpse into his thinking. Let's go further into that.
Oh.
What's his core artistic philosophy? How does he actually approach making music? What drives him based on these sources?
The overwhelming feeling from the material is that his approach is just fundamentally open-minded and exploratory.
Okay, exploratory.
He doesn't seem interested in fitting into neat boxes. You see it in the sound, the versatility, how he blends things. He's not sticking to one specific genre or even subgenre within hip-hop.
So it's not about chasing trends or trying to be commercial.
Seems not. A key part of his philosophy that's highlighted is simply being himself, making the music he genuinely wants to make. This idea of like overthinking recognition or worrying too much about commercial success. It doesn't seem to be the main driver described.
It's more internal.
Yeah, an internal drive to create.
And does he see hip-hop itself as particularly good for that kind of personal expression?
He does. He calls hip-hop the most liberating of all genres.
Liberating. Why?
His reasoning is pretty simple, actually, and quite powerful. He says anyone can do it. The barrier to entry is low, right? You just need to write down your thoughts, find a beat, and express yourself.
For that accessibility.
Yeah, that democratic nature of the genre, that's what he seems to really value, as a direct pipeline for personal expression.
And that authenticity, it goes beyond just the music.
It seems to. He's quoted saying, "Be the same person you are on stage as you are off stage, because being two-faced is not going to get you far."
Ah, so congruence between the person and the persona.
Exactly. It's not just about the stage act. It feels like a broader philosophy about being genuine, aligning your inner self with how you present yourself, both as an artist and just as a person. Ties back to that being himself thing.
It really sounds like, for him, it all starts with the words. The sources kept emphasizing he sees himself as a writer first.
That's a really crucial piece of the puzzle, yeah. Before he was fully focused on music, he actually taught English writing and poetry.
Oh, wow.
So that background clearly shapes his approach. He even admits sometimes he prefers the act of writing the lyrics more than singing them, even though he loves to sing. The craft of putting words together, telling a story, conveying emotion through text, it seems really deep-rooted.
Does that writing background influence his Hindi lyrics specifically?
Absolutely. He points out the advantage of actually thinking in Hindi when you're writing Hindi lyrics. He contrasts it with artists who might think primarily in English and then sort of translate.
Makes sense. It'd be more natural.
Yeah, allows for a more natural flow, deeper connection to the nuances of the language. And his influences reflect that too. He draws inspiration from old Bollywood songs, especially pre-70s ones.
Pre-70s Bollywood. Why those?
He feels they had a certain purity and depth. And he's also inspired by poets like Harivansh Rai Bakshan, famous for Madhushala.
What is it about Bakken or those old songs that he likes?
It's their mastery of using simple, accessible words, but conveying incredibly deep meanings.
Simple but profound.
Exactly. He values poetry and lyrics you can read easily, understand on one level, but then they just reveal layers. They say so much with so little. That focus on accessible depth seems like a principle he tries to apply in his own writing, aiming for lyrics that hit you immediately but offer more if you sit with them.
Okay, so moving from the words to the sound itself, the sources point out something really fundamental to his unique sound. He produces all his own tracks.
That's huge. Yeah, a massive factor in why he sounds so distinct.
Because his vision isn't being filtered.
Right. It's not being interpreted or changed by someone else. He's building the beats, the textures, the whole sonic world from scratch, which gives him, complete control.
And the sound itself is described as this blend.
Yeah, fascinating blend of ancient Indian components with contemporary hip-hop beats.
That sounds really interesting. What kind of specific Indian sounds are mentioned? Can you give us a feel for that?
They mention things like the sound of the Indian horn, that distinct tone, the ignition noise of a classic Cheetah scooter.
Wow, that's specific. That's a real nostalgia trigger for many.
Totally. And also extensive use of Indian drums and percussion. These aren't just like random samples dropped in. They seem really integrated. Combined with his heavy use of synth, it brings this genuine punch of freshness to the whole soundscape.
So it's not just putting old sounds on a new beat, it's a deeper fusion.
That seems to be the idea. And the result is described as a sound that's both recognizable and original.
Recognizable and original. How does that work?
It's called a brilliant combination because it taps into something familiar, those retro sounds, those local rhythms, but presents them in a totally new, modern way through the hip-hop structure and his experimental production. It creates a sonic identity that's just uniquely his.
The sources also use words like maximalist approach, even mania sometimes, to describe his sound. What does that suggest about the feel?
It suggests density, intensity, maybe multiple layers of sound happening at once. It's not sparse or minimal. It can feel quite full, complex, maybe even a bit overwhelming with all the sonic information, just wired with energy.
It sounds like music that demands attention.
Definitely. But it's really important to note the reactions to this sound are varied.
Right, the fan discussion showed a real split, didn't they?
Absolutely. Some listeners just genuinely can't vibe with it. They'll describe it as stale without any melody or deeper meaning, basically saying, yeah, the production might be clever, but the actual music or lyrics don't connect.
But then others feel the complete opposite.
Exactly. Others point to the meaningfulness and the experimental nature as the very reasons they are drawn to it. This polarization, this split reaction, is maybe the strongest sign he's doing something truly different.
Because it's not trying to please everyone.
Right. His music isn't universally palatable, and that seems to be part of its identity. It makes you take a side almost. You're either in or you're out. It's definitely not designed to be background noise.
Given this unique style, where does he get his inspiration? What sparks these tracks?
He seems to pull inspiration from just everyday moments, his immediate surroundings, his close circles. It's rooted in observation.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, there's one specific anecdote shared in the sources that really stood out to me. It's about the inspiration for the music video for his song Bulja.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that.
So he was in Delhi late at night, and he saw these two friends walking together under the moonlight. One friend seemed, maybe drunk or really struggling, and the other friend was physically supporting them, kind of holding them up as they walked.
Just a quiet moment, he observed.
Exactly. He saw this intimate, isolated little world happening between just those two people against the whole chaotic backdrop of the city at night. Seeing their contained world, their exchange, it felt like a different, deeper story was playing out, separate from everything else.
And that moment sparked the whole video concept.
Apparently so. That simple human moment of vulnerability and support.
That really shows how he finds these bigger stories in small, real-life things. It grounds his art, doesn't it, even if it gets abstract or maximalist later?
Totally. It reinforces that idea of finding the universal in the specific, like using local sounds or simple words with deep meaning. His art comes from watching the world around him, then filtering it through his unique lens.
This leads us perfectly into the next big piece, the visuals. The sources make it so clear his music videos are way more than just promos for the song.
Oh, absolutely integral. Yeah. The videos are described as highly visually significant and experimental in their own right.
And again, it's him doing it.
Yes, that does-it-all thing comes back here. He conceptualizes and edits these videos himself.
Even without formal film training.
That's what the sources say. Self-taught in that area, too. Which just speaks volumes about his creative drive and need for control, maybe.
And what's really striking is that sometimes the video idea comes first.
Yeah, that's wild, isn't it? He often has an idea for the music video running in his mind before he even starts writing the lyrics for the song.
So the visual story isn't an add-on. It's fundamental.
Seems like it. Often a foundational element running parallel to the music or even coming before it.
How are the videos generally described? What's it like watching them?
They get called visually striking, featuring trippy shots, shots that don't follow rules. There's a raw, unconventional feel.
Unconventional how?
Like one really vivid description is that watching them is like seeing intrusive thoughts play out on screen.
Intrusive thoughts.
Mm.
Wow. That suggests something unfiltered, maybe unsettling.
Yeah, a stream of consciousness feel, sometimes maybe jarring, definitely unfiltered visually. It connects back to that mania or maximalist description of the music, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like a coherent vision across both sound and visuals.
Totally. And they're also described as having a sense of frustration, even like a big middle finger to the music scene he maybe felt alienated from early on. There's a rebellious energy there, too.
But even with all that experimentation and rebellion, he has a specific goal for the viewer, right? Something about accessibility.
Yes, that's a key insight. His primary goal, he says, is that on the surface, even if people don't get what I'm saying, it should be fun to watch.
So entertain first.
Yeah, he wants the initial experience to be engaging, visually enjoyable. Then he invites you to look deeper, bring your own interpretations, find the layers. But the first hook is visual fun. It's communication on multiple levels.
That approach definitely invites people to analyze and talk about it. So let's dive into some specific videos the sources break down, starting with Barood. What's going on there?
Barood is presented as this really rich allegory. The title itself, Barood, means gunpowder. And it's used allegorically for those negative urges in people. the things that lead to disaster, destruction.
Okay, and his character in the video plays a specific role in that allegory.
Yes, Chaar Diwaari, dressed in white in the video, is interpreted as the medium, like a channel between the earthly world and the spirit world.
Right.
Here, he's shown as this pure spirit who's become weary, tired of having to consume the impurities of sinners before they can pass on.
So it's like a commentary on negativity overwhelming things.
Could be. Seen as a commentary on growing toxicity, maybe burdening even these spiritual gatekeepers. His own purity is being tested, maybe corrupted by the process.
How was that shown?
His distress is linked to this refinement process he undergoes, symbolized by him drinking some kind of black spirit. This process, may be meant to purify or process the negativity, seems to be driving him mad. Yet he still performs his job perfectly.
So like people struggling internally but keeping up appearances.
Exactly. It's interpreted as a meta-commentary on people in real life who are battling things inside under immense pressure, but outwardly they just keep functioning, doing their duties flawlessly.
The video also has other characters, right? These symbolic figures.
It does. After this Barood cutscene, which seems to signify the explosion of those negative urges, we meet figures from this allegorical realm. There's the Limbo's Punisher, described as tall, imposing, kind of Hagrid-like.
Okay.
And then there's the Devil's Dog, portrayed by a naked character, apparently drawing from European folklore, where these figures hunt lost souls.
And what do they do in the video?
In the video, the Devil's Dog seems to, groom the lost souls before the Punisher comes and drags them down towards hell.
And the setting itself is symbolic, too, tying into ideas of the afterlife.
Yeah, the environment is interpreted as having elements of the first circle of hell limbo, essentially. A nether realm where souls wait before judgment. There are visual cues suggesting the gateway to hell is within this space.
Wow, deep stuff.
And the sources even mention possible references to the river Styx, the ferryman Charon, implying this is just the start of a descent.
This level of detail feels very intentional. What's the overall takeaway, especially mentioning multiple circles of hell?
Well, the speculation in the source material is pretty interesting, since there are traditionally 9 circles of hell, and if Barood represents the first, or the entry point, could this video be just the beginning of a much larger project? Maybe 8 more songs or videos, each tackling a different circle?
A whole concept album or series based on Dante, almost.
Potentially. It leaves you feeling like this is part of a bigger, interconnected narrative he's constructing. It really invites that deep analysis and speculation about what's coming next.
Incredible. Okay, let's shift to another video they discussed. Love, Sex, RDOK, or LSD. What's the core message there?
The breakdown of LSD suggests the main theme is a classic cautionary tale, maybe updated, like, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it.
The old monkey's paw idea.
Sort of, yeah. Or maybe framed more traditionally, it speaks to the idea that things should come at the right time. Getting something too soon, or through shortcuts, can lead to bad outcomes.
How does the video's story show that?
It starts with Chaar Diwaari living this miserable life. Unhappy, maybe poor, and in desperation, he makes a wish specifically for money. Believing wealth will solve everything, bring happiness.
And the wish comes true.
Yes. And God, in the video, is played by Arpit Bala.
Oh, okay.
So Arpit Bala, as God, grants the wish via a lottery ticket. But it's not just any ticket.
Symbolism in the number again.
Seems so. The winning number starts with 777, which is widely seen as an angel number, right? Associated with luck, divine intervention, contrast to 666.
Right.
And interestingly, that number 777 is apparently heard earlier in the video too, maybe foreshadowing. So the wish gets granted with an angel number, but the result is still disastrous. Which adds complexity, doesn't it?
It does. So the money arrives, and things are good initially.
Right. Getting the money leads to the good times. Visually, it's all sunshine and roses, a full glow-up for Chaar Diwaari. He gets the life he thought he wanted, but the video structures this in chapters. The good times lead straight to Chapter 2, sex.
Uh-oh. And that's where the trouble starts.
Pretty much. Chapter 2 involves him getting involved with his boss's fiancée. The boss is described as Kunkar, like fierce or formidable. This transgression sets up Chapter 3, Dokar, betrayal, deceit.
What happens in that final chapter? How does it play out?
The boss finds out about the affair, and in the climax, Chaar Diwaari kills the boss.
Wow.
Then, seemingly out of fear that the girlfriend would betray him for the money, he kills her too.
Oh, man. So he betrayed his boss, committed murder.
Exactly. And the consequence of this whole chain reaction, started by that wish for money, is he ends up in jail. His life becomes even more miserable than it was at the start, starkly proving the theme. Shortcuts, ill-timed gains can lead to ruin.
And even the god character, Arpit Bala, seemed to know this could happen.
That's the interpretation, yeah. When Arpit Bala, as God, announces the lottery, he apparently calls it a tool to change fate, not necessarily to better fate.
Subtle distinction.
Very. It implies this divine awareness that the granted wish, the shortcut, could lead to a change for the worse, not just good. Underscores that idea. You can alter your path, but the outcome isn't guaranteed to be positive. Only time reveals the real cost of shortcuts.
It's so clear these videos are meant to be unpacked, not just watched. Let's get to Farabi, which seems to have sparked the most theories and discussion.
Farabi is definitely the one that sent everyone into overdrive, yeah. Watching it initially, you get this vibe of maybe identity theft, someone stealing his persona.
How does it start?
It starts with Chaar Diwaari seeing a poster for his own show, but then his image on the poster morphs into Arun Kushwaha, who's also known as Choti Mien. And throughout the video, Chaar Diwaari feels this kind of weirdness, discomfort whenever he sees Arun.
So Arun Kushwaha is central right from the beginning.
Yes, and it escalates. Chaar Diwaari gets physically stopped from going on stage for his own show, and instead Arun Kushwaha goes on and performs as Chaar Diwaari.
Performing as him, okay, that's blatant.
Yeah. And the breaking point, the straw that broke the camel's back for Chaar Diwaari in the video, is when Arun Kushwaha kisses Chaar Diwaari's girlfriend.
Whoa, that's personal.
Deeply personal violation. It triggers this chase scene, which leads to what the sources call the mega twist.
Big reveal, what is it?
The twist comes through flashbacks. Strategically placed flashbacks showing scenes from Chaar Diwaari's previous music videos, clips from LSD, Farah, Mera Saman Kahan Hai.
Okay.
But in these flashbacks, the main character is always Arun Kushwaha, and Chaar Diwaari is just a mere spectator, watching from the sidelines.
Wait, so Arun was the stud of those videos all along in this narrative?
Within the Farabi videos universe, yes. And this realization just shatters Chaar Diwaari's self-image. He wasn't the main character in his own story. He was just a bystander who somehow adopted the personality of his favorite artist, Arun Kushwaha.
Wow. That's a serious meta-narrative twist. It completely reframes everything. And the sources dive into multiple theories to explain this, right?
They do, and it really shows how much engagement his work generates. The first one, which seems pretty popular, is the persona theory.
Okay, persona theory. What's the idea?
It suggests artists often build this carefully crafted, clean online persona, the Chaar Diwaari we see. Successful, unique. But they hide their flawed, real-world reality, which is symbolized in the video by Arun Kushwaha.
And Chaar Diwaari feeling weird about Arun is him confronting that hidden self.
Exactly. He sees Arun representing his real, less polished self and dislikes it. He wishes his crafted persona was the reality. The video supports this visually too. Arun is depicted as having a short stature, which is noted as conventionally not considered nice.
Symbolizing the perceived flaws artists hide.
Right, and that mask stand at the end. It reinforces this, the masks artists wear, the fear of their real personality being exposed. His discomfort seeing Arun, even before the twist, is maybe his subconscious recognizing his authentic hidden self.
That's a powerful take on the pressures of image. What's the second theory?
The second is the parasocial relationship theory. This taps into that modern fan thing, right? Where a fan consumes so much content from an artist.
Music, videos, social media.
Yeah, everything. They start feeling like they know the artist personally, like they're friends, even though the artist has no clue who they are.
Right.
So in the context of Farabi, this theory suggests Chaar Diwaari is the fan. He's consumed so much of Arun Kushwaha's stuff, maybe Arun is a figure he looks up to, that he starts acting like Arun, adopting his personality, living in this delusion that he is the artist.
And the twist breaks that delusion.
Exactly. The reveal that Arun was the lead in the past videos shatters it. Shows Chaar Diwaari he was just a bystander, a fan who copied his idol's personality.
That's a really sharp commentary on modern fan culture. What about imposter syndrome? Is that in the mix?
Yes, the imposter syndrome theory is also discussed. The source notes it might be less strongly supported than the others, but it's a valid lens.
How does that apply here?
It suggests artists who get recognized quickly often feel like fakes, like they aren't as talented as people think. They fear being exposed, that the mask will fall.
Right, the fear of being found out.
So in this theory, Chaar Diwaari's fear is that if people realize he's actually Arun Kushwaha, meaning if they see his true, maybe insecure, less than perfect self, they'll reject him. He's trying to keep that perceived real self hidden.
Makes sense. And then there's the simplest explanation.
The simplest is the new era theory. This is partly backed by that graphic at the end of the video explicitly announcing a new era.
Okay.
This theory just proposes the video is a meta-commentary on his own artistic journey. Everything we've seen from Chaar Diwaari until now wasn't the real or full version. The new era that's coming, probably a new album or project, will show the true, authentic Chaar Diwaari. The video is just a narrative device to signal that shift.
Whichever theory you lean towards, Farabee clearly did its job, sparked tons of conversation, deep thinking.
Absolutely. It's not just a music video. It's like a piece of performance art designed for analysis.
And by leaving it open, embedding all these potential meanings, he makes the audience active participants, doesn't he?
Totally. Viewing becomes engagement, which fits perfectly with that idea that his music demands focus.
Okay, let's switch back to the music itself now. Moving beyond the video stories to the tracks, the reception, the sound specifics. Several key songs were mentioned.
Yeah, Burr Rude from 2023 gets highlighted. Dynamic, experimental with language, rhythms, catchy groove, but also a complete left turn from his earlier sound. Broke any sense of monotony.
And his debut EP, Terry Mayat Kegani, or TMKG.
Right, released late 2022. The title track, Songs for Your Funeral, is described as really reflective, tackling life, death, complexity, ethereal melody, emotional, profound lyrics. And the EP itself, same title, was a big release.
It had some significant collaborations on it, didn't it?
It did, yeah. Featured names like MC Code, Arpit Bala, Yash Raj. And the sources praised how well they were integrated, blended seamlessly, elevated the whole thing, became a real fan favorite.
Why do you think that EP connected so strongly? What made it a favorite?
The material suggests it managed to create this feeling of peace and familiarity within a territory of chaos and a maximalist approach.
That's a fascinating phrase. Finding calm in the chaos.
Yeah. Finding connection amidst this dense, maybe overwhelming sound, that boldness, that blending of disparate things, led some fans to compare it favorably to really ambitious projects, like Kanye's My Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasy.
High praise.
Definitely. And the flow between tracks was also noted, like the transition from Kaya with Arpit Bala to Ankh Band with MC Code described as effortless, suggests careful curation. Some even said the EP has the energy to open a mosh pit live. Speaks to that raw intensity.
That balance, familiarity, and maximalism, chaos and peace, seems key to its appeal. What about Mira Saman Kahan Hai?
From 2022 as well, Where's My Stuff? Tackles life's difficulties, catchy beat, message of perseverance, and it's particularly moving because, according to one source, it's dedicated to a friend diagnosed with schizophrenia, seen as portraying that experience beautifully.
That adds a lot of weight.
And Unjay, also 2022. More upbeat, this one. Like the title says, encourages enjoying life. Music that just makes you feel better. Shows his range beyond just the darker stuff.
Jog was mentioned as experimental, but also maybe divisive?
Yeah, Jog seems like one of those tracks that really pushed the experimental envelope. And it got that split reaction. Some loved it, others just said they can't vibe with it.
Okay.
The source mentioned some hype around it might have been linked to a Honey Sing reel, interestingly. Shows how viral moments can push attention, even to his more out there stuff.
Speaking of reels, Love Sex, a G Whore got traction that way too.
Right. It title itself may be echoing things like Sex, Money, Feelings Die, plus the visuals we talked about.
Yeah.
It created a lot of early hype from a reel. For fans who clicked with it, it felt unique, scratched an itch for something different.
And Farabee, the song itself, separate from the video theories.
Yeah.
How did that land musically?
According to some listeners in the sources, while the video was complex, the song Farabee worked well for them. And it was noted it sounds even better on repeat.
Perzonio.
Maybe. Suggests layers in the production or structure that reveal themselves over time.
Were there other songs frequently mentioned positively?
Yeah, others that came up included Violence, his collaboration with Gravity, Roshni with Parg, Bulja, the one with the video inspired by the friends Rang and Nithera, shows there's a decent body of work people are connecting with beyond just the big viral hits.
So overall, the reaction to his music is definitely varied. Reflects that experimental nature we keep coming back to.
Absolutely. The opinions range all the way from stale, just good production, to unique, experimental, deeply meaningful, resonating profoundly.
The descriptions are intense too, intrusive thoughts, metal-like.
Yeah, deep meaning hidden beneath randomness. It's all over the place, which tells you something.
Why do you think his music sparks such strong, almost visceral connections for some fans?
The sources suggest it's deeply personal for some. His music resonates because listeners feel he's articulating or representing different emotions or feelings they experience themselves.
Like he's giving voice to something internal for
Yeah.
them.
Exactly. Some even link it to specific emotional patterns or even emotional disorders, implying his music speaks to complex psychological states in a way that feels authentic and validating.
Beyond that personal connection.
Well, some attribute his popularity partly to a shock factor. In the lyrics, the production, the ideas, he's not afraid to be jarring or unconventional, and that